In this episode of the PBD Podcast, host Patrick Bet-David welcomes guest Dave Smith, a stand-up comedian and Libertarian podcast host. The podcast covers a wide range of topics, including politics, business, and interesting news stories. The conversation begins with an introduction of the guests and a discussion about their previous podcast episode, which caused their guest, Anthony Weiner, to trend on Twitter. Dave introduces himself as a comedian, Libertarian podcast host, and a talker of talk. They then discuss the movie, Sound of Freedom, which has recently hit $100 million and tops Mission Impossible. They also talk about a story from Insider that states Americans are moving to Japan for its safety and affordability. Another topic they discuss is whether marriage is outdated, as 2 out of 5 adults think the tradition no longer matters. The conversation takes an interesting turn when they start discussing Anthony Weiner, the former congressman involved in a sexting scandal. Dave provides a humorous description of Weiner's scandal and explains how it led to his resignation in disgrace. They also talk about Weiner's failed mayoral campaign and his connection to Hillary Clinton. The conversation becomes heated when Patrick asks Dave about the conspiracy theories surrounding the Clintons and the suspicious deaths associated with them. Dave defends the notion that politicians may have people murdered, citing the Clintons' involvement in foreign policy decisions that resulted in the deaths of many innocent people. He also mentions the suspicious deaths surrounding the Clintons and suggests that it is fair to question their involvement. The podcast plays a clip from the previous episode where Patrick asks Anthony Weiner about the conspiracy theories surrounding the Clintons. Weiner becomes defensive and accuses Patrick of implying something nefarious. Dave criticizes Weiner's response, stating that it is not outrageous to consider the possibility that politicians may have people murdered. Patrick and Dave discuss the documentary Weiner, which follows Anthony Weiner's failed mayoral campaign. They discuss Weiner's shameless and relentless campaigning style, as well as his competitive nature. They also speculate on why Weiner allowed the documentary to be made, suggesting that he may fear the release of damaging information. In addition to the discussion on politics and scandals, the podcast also covers other important topics such as the declining interest in marriage among young adults. The hosts discuss a Wall Street Journal article that highlights the trend of young adults considering marriage to be an outdated tradition. Factors such as the rising cost of weddings, fear of divorce, and lack of plans for shared responsibilities in case of a breakup are cited as reasons for this trend. The hosts share their thoughts on the article, with one host expressing his belief that women have been misled by modern-day feminism, which promotes independence and devalues the importance of marriage and family. The podcast also delves into the topic of Americans moving to Japan for safety and affordability. The hosts discuss the reasons behind this trend, such as the fear of gun violence in the United States and the cost advantages of living in Japan. While one host expresses his preference for staying in America and building something big, the other host argues that safety concerns should not be the sole reason for moving to Japan and emphasizes the importance of actively working to improve America rather than abandoning it. The podcast episode also explores the corrupting influence of power in politics and the importance of family and marriage in society. The hosts discuss the idea that those in positions of power will do anything to maintain their power, drawing parallels to the biblical story of King David. They argue that politicians are no exception to this and that people should not blindly defend their chosen candidates. They also discuss how government policies, such as the welfare system and student loan debt, have disincentivized marriage and family. The hosts emphasize the importance of family and marriage, with one host stating that family is the most important thing in life and that career success pales in comparison. They also discuss the impact of hookup culture on relationships and marriage, with one host arguing that women participating in hookup culture devalues their worth in the dating market. Overall, the podcast episode provides a comprehensive and engaging discussion on various topics, including politics, marriage, family, and the impact of government policies. The hosts offer their perspectives on these issues, discussing the corrupting influence of power, the declining interest in marriage among young adults, and the importance of family and marriage in society.